Listen closely to this. 16-year-old vanishes after fleeing abusive 31-year-old boyfriend. Oh yeah, we got a rant about that. Welcome to Exploring with the Nug, where we search for missing people any way we can. And today we're going to be talking about missing girl Danielle Owens. And let's start the video off by going over her missing person flyer. Danielle Owens, age 16, went missing from Greenville, Tennessee, December 12th, 2022. She's a 16-year-old white female, 5'2", 115 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes, and she was last seen in the same town, Greenville, Tennessee. Now I want you to stick with that age 16-year-old girl because that is the title of this video. That's the whole reason we're going to be ranting today, is because this girl was a minor. She was a teenager. She was not an adult, not even close in my book. And the fact that she was shacked up with 31-year-old boyfriend, so many things we could talk about. But let's start right off with who dropped the ball first on searching for this girl, and it looks like it was the media. And the story goes as follows. Danielle's disappearance and the search for the missing teen has not received much press at all. The family is desperate to get the word out. TikTok accounts have been putting out posts. News stories really aren't taking it serious, and there is a reason for that. So I'm not exactly sure why, but back in November of 2022, Danielle was in Child Protective Services. And for some unknown reason, she was probably unhappy, who knows, but she decided to run away from Child Protective Services, and that is what set this off, as they're not looking for a missing person, they are just looking for a runaway. And so that usually, they don't really get much attention. Kids run away every day, unfortunately, and while there is a way to search for runaways, they don't get as much attention as kidnappings or missing person alerts. And really, depending on where you're at, it's that same song and dance again. Not a lot of people really care what's going on as long as it doesn't affect them. And because of the fact that she was classified as a runaway, the news agency decided they didn't want to air the story at all. But that all changed December 11th, 2022, when apparently her much older boyfriend, we're talking 31 years old, his name is David Dabbs, and apparently they got into a physical altercation and David choked her. So after the choking, Danielle's father called the police, and before the police could arrive, Danielle ran off into the woods. The police did a brief search around the area and could not find Danielle, but did find one of her shoes. Now the family was told that Danielle may have made it to another friend's house, also in his 30s. His name is Cody, but the story about her going to Cody and what happened next has changed several times. Now, even though Danielle was in Child Protective Services, she still kept in contact with her family, and her family said it was very odd of her to not contact them since she disappeared from the old boyfriend's house, and so they were obviously concerned. I also would like to add that when police got to David's house because of the choking, they arrested him, but not for the choking incident, but apparently he had some unrelated charges. So now, David's in jail, but Danielle is still missing. So now the police have changed the runaway classification to a missing person, and then the news picks up on the story and starts running with it. But I think it's been like a month, so there is a delay. Once again, the word did not get out fast enough that there's a missing person, and that could play a factor on what happened to her. This is a case that Adam and myself have worked on. The family reached out to us, and we decided to go and help out. They wanted us to search a quarry in the town to see if perhaps something bad happened and her body was dumped in that quarry. We went to the quarry and we dove it, and there's a video on it I will link in the description down below for you guys to watch. We didn't find Danielle in the quarry, which was good news because there is a chance she could still have been alive. We did, however, find 3 vehicles in there. We never did get the police involved on those vehicles, and as far as I'm aware, the cars are still in that quarry, and we did plan on going back and pulling them out at a later date. So the search goes on and on with no trace of Danielle, and unfortunately in February of 2023, Danielle's body was recovered in a cornfield nearby where that quarry was at. Now, at the time, we didn't do land searches. We had no way of trying to find her in that cornfield. I really wish we could have, but at the time, we was just water searching. Now, from what I can find on the internet, it looks like that cause of death is yet to be determined or unknown, or they just haven't released it to the public. Now, let's rant a little bit about this before we move on. We have a 16-year-old girl, and for some reason, she is in Child Protective Services. And I didn't ask the family why. I felt that might have been a sensitive subject and I didn't want to go there. But either way, Child Protective Services. They're supposed to be protecting children. Child Protective Services. But yet, this 16-year-old girl isn't enjoying her time in Child Protective Services, so she runs away. They knew where she went. She went to this older gentleman's house. So many things right there. Why didn't Child Protective Services go to the house and pick her back up? Why was she living with a 31-year-old man that apparently the authorities or somebody knew about? Why did nobody go over to that house and drag her out of that house and throw her in the car because they knew what was best for her, better than her? Now, when I say stuff like that, I don't want it to sound like, I don't want it to sound bad, but you know what I'm saying? If you have kids and they're rebelling and they're acting out, you need to snatch them up by the ear and you need to show them who actually has authority. Now, 16 years old, 16-year-old girl, that is a tough time when you're raising a kid. But at the same time, you got to be tough. You're not their friend. You are their parent, and you have to act that way. Now, I keep saying, she was in Child Protective Services. So something went on with the family, and she was not with them. That's a big question mark. I don't know about that. But I'm more concerned with how Child Protective Services lost her and knew where she went and didn't go get her, right? Second thing, she shacked up with a 31-year-old man. Why is this dude not locked up? Why did nobody go over there and pound him in the ground? Now, I'm not a supporter of senseless violence, but I am a little old school. I am a product of the 90s where you're actually allowed to throw hands and it's not really a big deal. So if you got a 30-year-old dude, 31, and he's shacked up with your 16-year-old daughter, your 16-year-old granddaughter, niece, family, friend, whatever, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go over there, I'm going to make a scene. Now, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to pound him in the dirt, but I know that girl's not going to stay there anymore. I know no matter what the situation is, she's better off with Child Protective Services, with her grandparents, with anybody except this dude. This dude who obviously is some kind of perv. You guys got to understand what I'm saying here. That age gap is too much. And she's a minor and it's illegal. So there's that aspect. So there is some good news, not great news because of how it ended, how the case was closed, but David was eventually indicted by a grand jury and charged with numerous crimes, including criminally negligent homicide, aggravated assault, 2 counts of false report, child abuse and neglect, and contributing to the unruly conduct of a child. Now, I don't exactly know what this means, but apparently instead of pleading guilty or not guilty or no contest, but apparently there is a plea called an Alford plea. And an Alford plea allows the defendant to plead guilty and accept a plea deal, also maintaining their innocence. All right, but I guess maybe that worked in his favor because he ended up being charged to 4 years in prison with 30% release eligibility, which means he must serve 30% of his sentence before being eligible for release. So you're telling me all those charges, and all of those charges are connected to a 16-year-old girl dying, and she gets 4 years with a chance to be released after 30% of his sentence has been completed? Wow. I don't understand how there are cases of, murder, aggravated murder, all these horrible crimes, and people are getting life after life, death sentences, no possibility of parole. But when there are children involved and the children, this one's even worse because the child died. And this dude gets 4 years for that? I mean, now granted, he didn't get charged with murder, accessory to murder. He got charged with criminally negligent homicide, which you would think that means he was somehow linked to Danielle dying. 4 years with 30% served, and then he can eligible for parole. Come on, man. Come on. We got to do better than that. I mean, you got girls who are getting assaulted and they're still alive, and they're the bad guy who did it, few years in prison, and then he gets out, and then he does it again, or he kills or he gets worse, that is a broken part of our system. And I really wish that would change somehow too. Who knows if it ever will? We can only hope. Now, the silver lining to him getting 4 years with the possibility of parole is he's already in jail, and he's serving 12 years for some methamphetamine charges. So at least the drug charges have got him locked up for 12 years, and then you got to add on the 4 years. So he's in jail for a long time, but still, he's going to see the light of day, provided he doesn't get offed in prison or something. I hear prisoners don't like it when your crimes are linked to children. Children is bad. You don't hurt children. You don't kill children. So maybe he's getting a little bit of prison justice. I don't know. We could only hope. So there you have it. Small town USA, small town law system. And once again, it looks like it has failed a family, and it failed this girl, and it didn't protect her, and ultimately it cost her her life. Did she have a troubled past? Did her family have a troubled past? Whatever the case may be, Child Protective Services dropped the ball on this girl. And I don't care if they're overloaded. I don't care if they, I don't care what their story is. What they did was they did not act fast enough to save this girl from danger, and she ended up dying because of it. Now, I'm really curious, and maybe you guys can help me in the comments. If you guys can find out, what were the autopsy results? What did she die of? Was there drugs involved? Because the story reads, she jumped out of the window and she ran off into the woods. Months later, she was found dead in a cornfield. I can't find anything else. Like, was she shot? Was she strangled to death? Internal injuries, blunt force trauma, something that explains what happened to her. But apparently whatever did happen to her wasn't enough to pin David to a murder. So, I don't know. I wish he would have got more. I wish he would have got the death penalty. And I mean, you see this picture. She was a pretty girl. She could have had a future ahead of her, and now she won't. It's done. The bad guy's in prison, and he's going to get out someday, and who knows what he might do then. So hopefully things will change. You guys tell me in the comments what you think about this case, and you also tell me how I'm doing on these cases. I'm having a great time reporting these cases to you, and especially since myself and Adam have actually worked on these cases, we feel like we have a bit of a personal connection, and we also feel angry when we couldn't ultimately find the missing person and bring them home safe. 9 times out of 10, something bad has happened to these people, and at least this family has the answers, even though it is definitely not the answer they wanted. We just got to make sure bad guy doesn't get out of prison. So, I don't know. You guys tell me. If you guys got any ideas, make sure you write your local congressman. Who knows? One way or another, we're going to keep these cases out in the open so somebody might see them and do something about the problem we're having right now. Until we meet again, my name is Jeremy. I will see you guys on that next video.